Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to OpenMicVO. My name's Graham Spicer, and it's Sunday, so we must be getting together for an hour to talk about voiceover topics. So glad that you're here with us tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about narration, all forms of narration. So that could be narrating web videos, long-form narration like e-learning, maybe even audiobooks, broadcast narration, which is narrating television shows. Anything is on the table tonight when it comes to narration. We try and keep this community as supportive as possible on Sunday evenings. So, we're all here to help each other. Those of you who are new to the voiceover business, I want you to feel comfortable with asking newbie questions because we were all newbies once. And I certainly ask those of us who've been in the business a little longer than that to let's make sure that everyone who comes here with a question tonight leaves with the answers they need to be more successful as a voice actor. The rules are pretty simple. First of all, I'm going to start unmuting people in just a moment. And when I unmute you, you're then going to be in control of your own audio. You can just toggle the little microphone icon in the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom window, webinar window, and that will toggle your mic on and off. Certainly want you to feel comfortable with, unmuting yourself and adding to the conversation, whether that's asking a question or offering some advice or telling us a story. I certainly welcome you to do that. But if you're not actively participating in the conversation, please mute yourself so that we don't have trouble with background noise and feedback and echo and things like that. The second rule is be nice to each other. Again, this is all about being supportive and being positive about the voiceover business and the voiceover community. So let's make sure that we treat everybody on this call tonight with the respect they deserve as the professional that they are. The third rule is I want you to keep in mind that I record OpenMicVO every Sunday night and it gets posted to YouTube. So you can go back and have a listen if there's something that you wanted to catch up on. But keep that in mind because if you share any proprietary information tonight, it will get posted to YouTube and I can't control where that's going to end up. So just be wary of that. So with that said, tonight we're talking about narration, all forms of narration, audiobooks, e-learning, other forms of long narration, broadcast narration, web videos. It's all open for discussion tonight. Let me start unmuting people. And once you see that you are unmuted, if you want to be the first person to get us started tonight with a question or with a comment, please feel free to do so. I'm also curious tonight. We already have well over 20 people on the call. I'm curious who is going to VOAtlanta this year. Looking forward to meeting many of you there, I hope. Still unmuting people.
Good evening, Graham. It's JDK.
Hey, JD, how are you tonight?
I am wonderful, and yes, I am going to VOAtlanta. It will be my first visit.
Fantastic. Now, what prompted you to go to VOAtlanta this year?
Education. And actually, also, I wanted to meet some people that I've only stalked on Facebook.
Well, I can tell you that most of the education happens outside of the conference rooms because it's amazing. I remember 2 years ago, I think it was, I went and I sat down and this guy comes over and sits down next to me. And it turns out it's Scott Brick, one of the most prolific and best known audiobook narrators on the planet.
Wow.
And he's just a wonderful, beautiful guy to get to know. So you never know. The other thing about voiceover people is that everyone's so nice. Like there's not a lot of egos in the voiceover business. Everybody is, from the very, A-list actors in Los Angeles and New York, they're not stuffy. They're happy to sit and talk with you about anything. It's really quite good. I hope that you enjoy yourself. Please.
I thoroughly expect to enjoy myself. I'm going to start my day bright and early with an X session with Uncle Roy Yokelson, and I cannot wait.
Well, speaking of Uncle Roy Yokelson, he happens to be here tonight. Uncle Roy, tell us about what you're going to be teaching us on your X session.
We're doing advanced Adobe Audition. Hey, you can't even see me for some reason. Advanced Adobe Audition, audio post-production. You get clients that say, hey, can you add a piece of music to that? Or can you put some sound effects? And then how to use plugins, how to make a stack, how to master your audio so that the next guy gets really pristine audio.
Now, Roy, are there still any spots left in your X session?
It looks like there are 3 left.
So why don't you tell us how we can go about signing up for your X session if we're going to VOAtlanta?
If you're going to VOAtlanta and you have the app, and the app is voatlanta.zerista.com, and when you get there, put on the agenda tab, and I'm one of the first ones up there because mine is we're actually pre-conference. It's a pre-conference X session because once the conference starts, I'm mixing the main room for the rest of the conference, so you can't get me. You can come say hello, but yeah. So 9 o'clock on Thursday. However, if you're showing up Wednesday, there's a bus that's taking us to go bowling and billiards and all kinds, and some food. So there's the pre-conference Wednesday, and then there's this X session Thursday morning. And I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody, including
JD.
That
would be me.
He's got 3 initials. He's got JDK, sort of.
Yep.
Sort of.
Hey, Roy, since I got you here for a half second, check your Antland email. I sent you all the information like February 11th.
Yeah. Oh, I saw it come in, but I didn't do anything with it.
Okay, great. I'm glad you got it.
Because you want to leave your laptop home.
I changed my mind. You changed my mind on that.
Oh, good. Did you read? I sent you a thing through the app. Did you get that?
Was it today's message?
Yes. Oh, okay. I kind of changed the wording because you said, well, I don't want to bring my laptop. So I said, it's not that important to bring your laptop.
I noticed that. But you know what? After your last message to me, I realized how important it is.
Yeah, like you want to follow along, If I tell you to put something in your settings, you might as well do it and leave it in there, right?
Absolutely.
And there's something about your beard adventure that I have to find out about.
Oh, you will see. You will see.
I see in the pictures, so I think your beard has a life unto itself.
There's more to see than just what's in the photographs.
And the other thing, oh boy. And the other thing is, I wrote to all the participants of the X group at my X session anyway, that I need to know what kind of bagel they want, because, as part of my branding, everybody gets not all 600 of you, but some people are the privileged few will get some bagels.
Got to be an everything bagel.
Okay, I'm putting that on the list right now.
Uncle Roy is infamous for his bagels.
That's right.
Where do you bring them from, Uncle Roy?
Well, from Bloomfield, New Jersey. East. The reason the bagels are better here than like in Atlanta or LA is we have the right water consistency. I know this is kind of straying from audio tips, but to make a bagel, the procedure is you boil it first and then you bake it. So you have to boil it in the water. And if you don't have the right water, you don't have the right bagels. So my carry-on luggage is 3 or 4 dozen bagels, and then I'm going to have some FedExed in for Friday because I have a feeling they're going to be all gone. And so the rest of the, for the rest of the conference.
Fantastic.
That's worth the price of the X session right there.
There you go.
Does anybody else have any questions about VOAtlanta or any comments? Going for the first time, let us know who you are.
Joe Loesch here. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there.
Joe, oh, yeah, you're going to be there, Joe.
Yeah, buddy.
Long, Joe.
Woo-hoo. Say again?
It's been way too long since I've had to see
Yes, it has. I got a big hug for you, too. And a hug for Roy too. If there's a cinnamon raisin bagel in it.
Okay, I'm putting you down, cinnamon raisin. Yeah. Don't tell everybody though.
Okay, let's get on to narration. We're talking about narration tonight, broadcast narration, long form narration, audiobooks, anything's on the table. So who's got a question for us or a story they want to tell about a recent narration job they were working on? Really interested in hearing what it is that you have to say.
I'll say this, unless somebody else has something to say. Somebody played me their e-learning demo today, and it was fully produced. Guess what? The e-learning people, if you're target marketing, they just want to hear your voice. So when I produce an e-learning demo, I do light sound design on one version, but I give you just the voice on all the clips. That's really all they want to hear. They bounced them back and said, no, send us just the voice only.
Really? That's interesting.
That's from the actual e-learning, the people who hire you. They don't care about music and effects because there were no e-learning jobs. Apparently, there's no audio post-production in e-learning.
Not a lot, no.
No.
So a question for you. Do you have, for those of you who don't know, Roy produces a lot of demos. He's one of the most respected demo producers in America.
Thank you.
And Roy, I'm interested because most people, when they're doing e-learning, are doing it from their own home studio. When you produce someone's e-learning demo, do you insist that they send files from their own studio so that the demo will be consistent with what's delivered on a real job, or do you go something more produced than that?
There are 3 scenarios. I prefer if you come here because in person there's a better relationship going on, better communication, and I have a lot of different microphones in every script. If we can't put music behind an e-learning demo, we can at least use different microphones and change the sound by having different microphones. Scenario number 2 is you have 1 or 2 microphones and we do a Zoom session, and I will clean up and process and create a demo out of that. And scenario number 3, which has happened at least once, it's about to happen again, and I'm going to add this as something that I offer. I come to your home studio and I fix your home studio the way it's supposed to be, and then we record your demo in your home studio, and then you can know, yep, this is the quality I deliver from my home studio because this is where the demo was recorded.
Very good.
How's that?
Fantastic. So someone has to live within a reasonable commute from New Jersey in order to make that happen then, right?
No, they've come from Canada and California and Atlanta and wherever. And I flew to Colorado to do Isa Lopez's home studio, and we did her demo there. No, I mean, whoever has the means to come here for the killer demo adventure, that would be great.
So, Roy, just quickly, how does someone get a hold of you? What's your email address, or what's the website that they can go to?
The website, which they should go to, because then they can click on the killer demo page, and you can listen to the Voice Arts Award nominated killer demos. Is antlandproductions.com, ANTLAND, antlandproductions.com. I do a lot of work with audiobooks as well. I'm up for an audio award May 31st for a book that I directed and produced for my 10th grade English teacher, which is such a fun story, just the fact that it happened.
Now, Roy, have you ever been a talent yourself, or have you always been on the production side?
I do the occasion. Well, in your demo, I make a cameo, but I do get audition requests, and I do some medical where I'm the doctor or I'm the patient or something like that. Every time I give a line read, I wonder why I'm not doing voiceover, except that I love doing what I do, which is directing and producing. So I don't do a lot. I am a SAG-AFTRA member because I was a must join at one point. and I get my screeners, so that's fun. So I don't really do much actual voiceover work.
Now, I noticed that Carol Monda's here, and Carol Monda is a incredibly well-known audiobook narrator and coach. And Carol, I was hoping I could get you to step in and speak about audiobook demos. And do you ever put any production like music or sound effects in audiobook demos, or like what Uncle Roy is describing for e-learning, it's just straight voice?
Always and only just straight voice, but that doesn't mean only and always have I heard that with other people's demos. In other words, sometimes people will send me their already existing demo, and sometimes it will have intro music or outro music, because once in a while, and maybe even more than once in a while, if certain companies like Harper do a book, there are several of mine like this, where we just do the straight record, and then in post they'll do maybe 15 seconds of music at the beginning, and maybe even a couple of seconds with each chapter. But this is extremely rare, and sort of like what Uncle Roy, hi Uncle Roy, was saying.
Carol and I co-produce audiobook demos sometimes.
Yeah, we direct, we coach, we love each other. We eat bagels. It's fantastic. We have a little rivalry about which bagel is better, the New York or the New Jersey, but I'm a Jersey girl, so I'm willing.
Wait a minute, you were almost a traitor last year.
I know.
Because you liked the Montreal bagel.
The Montreal bagel, that's right. Well, I'm sure Graham can appreciate that.
Montreal bagels are best. That's a whole other conversation.
That's right. But I did want to say that, just like Uncle Roy was saying with e-learning, I have heard some e-learning pieces, even actual produced pieces, where, especially with kids, if it's, Johnny is in yellow and Sally is in blue, what color is David in? Those kinds of things. Sometimes you'll even get like little mini applause, or right before it starts, it's like, hee, lots of little kids, or even kid-like music. Have you ever heard that, Roy?
Or with the right answer, ding, or, something.
Oh, certainly that, yes, sound effects. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't even mean to ask Uncle Roy a question. I was trying to answer yours, Graham. Sorry. So no, generally no. It's tempting for a lot of, at least my students, to at least start with that, because they feel as though it's so dry with just the voice. But audiobook customers, clients, listeners, they know that. They know that they're going to be listening to a voice for a long time. And so I think they would have gotten a radio drama or something had they wanted some music.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
I want to mention, by the way, that you are unable, for some reason, if you're unable to actually join us using your microphone, maybe you're not set up in your home booth tonight. You can always use the Q&A box or the webinar chat box. Either one of those works fine.
Hey, Graham.
Hey, David. How are you tonight?
No, this is Randy.
Oh, Randy. Sorry.
I'm in South Texas, and first of all, let me say I'm going to be joining you guys in Atlanta as well, because I feel a little bit isolated down here, and I'm looking forward to having conversation and maybe a beverage or two with as many of you as possible. I'm sort of interviewing, taking applications for the producer of my next couple of demos, and I actually would like to rewind a little bit and ask Uncle Roy a question. He mentioned a moment ago that when people visit him in New Jersey, he uses multiple microphones, and many of us, myself actually, primarily only use one microphone. So if I'm using multiple microphones on a demo that changes the quality of my voice, what's that going to do when a client hires me and they say, well, that's not what you sounded like on clip C?
Well, what we're trying to simulate with multiple mics is obviously not what can you strictly do from your house. But in the old days of producing demos, people would give me their actual clips that of jobs they've done, and it came from different studios which had whatever microphone. So I'm not a big fan of over EQing things just to make them sound different, and I can make different microphones kind of sound similar. I mean, the bottom line is we just want it to sound good. It's not like we want one microphone to be overly bright and overly dull or anything like that. And if
Roy, you can accomplish that with mic placement as well.
That's a good point too. You can get into your mic and get proximity, and you can back off a little bit and put extra pop filter on just to get the highs down. But if that's a legit point to bring up, and if it's a major concern, which it isn't to me as a demo producer, so let's just use if you are where you are, well then we're going to use your mic. That's fine. And then it truly represents what comes out of your home studio. Or you can come here. What microphone do you have?
Actually, I've got an old Studio Projects
Well, I have one.
B1 that I really like. It sounds good. Everybody that's heard it says that it sounds good. It's going through a Studio Projects VTB something preamp, and it works pretty well for me. But it is what it is.
I have a C1. It's just, which they used to advertise, it's like an 87 with EQ, but it's like too much EQ. It's too bright, the C1. So I tone it down. I make it sound like a real 87, I mean, we have all the post-production tools to make it sound like whatever we want it to sound like.
Certainly.
I mean,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Graham.
Well, just certainly Studio Projects is a well-known brand when it comes to delivering an incredible amount of bang for the buck. I mean, Roy, if I remember right, the C1, which I think is still made, is somewhere like $275 or perhaps even less. And you're right, it probably is a little bright right out of the box, but it's a dynamite microphone.
It's robust. It's bright and robust. But my favorite mic for the bang for the buck is I got as a stupid deal of the day on Musician's Friend or wherever it was, MXL 990.
Mm-hmm.
It's bright, but it's. I bought it for $50. I mean, now it's not. Now it's like $90 now.
$89 regular price. Yeah.
MXL 990. Yeah. I have two of them because you can use it for music. You can use it for voiceover. It's a really good. If you want a second mic for $90, that's the one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great mic. I have the Patriot version.
Should I put my hand over my heart?
You should every time you record. I have a question for Carol and Roy regarding demos, not e-learning. This is an audiobook. I did work on an audiobook where I portrayed a 90-ish-year-old African-American gentleman, and clearly I am not that, but I do a lot of character work. I was wondering if that would be something that you would want to include or not.
Such a good question. Roy, do you want to take it first since you're the guest of honor?
You're the guest of honor. If you're showing part of your range, this is what you do. So I wouldn't put it as the first piece, but if it was the third piece and everybody then went, holy, you know what? Is that the same guy?
Okay.
By all means have some of that on there, especially in an audiobook where you got to give a longer clip. Then we can hear that you can maintain that character. That would be great.
Oh, okay, thank you.
He could probably also use that in his character voice demo.
Yep.
Could very well be. You're right.
Carol, what are your thoughts?
I absolutely think that we could use some. Generally speaking, you want at least a fiction with a man and a woman in dialogue. And so at the very least, if you can do voices, and we shouldn't really connect this with accents because that's a bit of a different thing, but still, if you can do something very well that is outside of your standard range or your standard read, I think that's the way to go. But if it's a first person, the entire book is a 90-year-old African American.
Yes, it is.
And you, okay, then good for you for getting that job, but you probably shouldn't have gotten one. Probably should have gotten, a black actor, frankly.
I agree. I can't argue with that. On the other hand, the check cleared.
Right, exactly. And I'm sure you did a great job. I, myself, just this year did a 90-year-old black man.
Man?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was not a first person, he was in a lot of scenes.
Okay.
And actually there was another 60-year-old black man who was his friend. So we had a lot of that. And yeah, I think that's a really good thing to let your demos sing with as many different kinds of voices as you can, but not for the sake of only doing character. What they mainly will hire you to do is to sound like you invested and involved in the story, and then bringing in characters that have those other sounds.
In the audiobook that I'm up for the award in, and we're in the drama category, my English teacher is the only narrator who did all the voices. The others are casts of 6 to 30 people. So yeah, he did women, men, and all the kids of the high school, the fictitious high school.
Wow.
Carol, this is James Romick in New Jersey. I just did one where I was an American in World War II in occupied France, and most of the main characters had French accents. I had to do a German accent and a Russian accent.
Yep.
So it was crazy.
It is crazy. I will also just join you. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's commiserating, but it's certainly, it's more challenging, of course, than just sort of I grew up in middle America and I'm telling a story about my family,
Right. Well, the thing was, when the American was speaking French and German, I still used his voice.
Good.
And most of the French characters had a French American type accent. And the German, I substituted the V's for the W's in the words, and that's about as far as bastardizing German that I did.
James, that's exactly what works the best, I think, is having what most of the publishers and producers I work with will say is to give it a flavor, give it just a taste or an essence of that accent, and it is true when you've got those words. I just back to back, this is the commiserating, non-commiserating part. I did an entire book about a taster, a food taster for Hitler. It's really true.
Wow.
That makes sense, though, because everybody was trying to kill that man.
Exactly. It's true. The man had 8 tasters. So that was probably, 5 or so pages of German words and phrases that were researched by, thank goodness, Blackstone Publishing, which is called Blackstone Publishing, not Blackstone Audio, even though you'll get the same result if you Google either.
Did you work with Jamie?
I sure did. Yeah.
Oh, I love Jamie.
I love Jamie too. Jamie Matler is who we're speaking about. She's the director and engineer at Blackstone's New York office. And then I did something for Macmillan, just finished, and it took triple the time because it had 13 pages of French, just French words, phrases. It was really, really tough. But the idea that, if you get the research back, or if you do your own research and, you hear that it's Reichsmark, for Reichsmark, it's hard to do that lightly.
Right.
But that's sort of what.
Fortunately, I was a voice major in college, so I had to sing in German, French, Italian, and Latin. So I'm fairly comfortable with the languages.
That's great.
What some of you might not know is that James was the Phantom of the Opera on Broadway.
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you?
I am so impressed by that, James.
That's cool.
Yeah, he did like 400 or almost 400.
379 performances.
300.
Wow.
As the Phantom on Broadway, so he knows what he speaks about when he's talking about singing. Who else has some questions for us tonight about narration of any sort?
Hi, this is Anthea from Illinois. Got a question for y'all about overall what to put on a demo. I've been fortunate. So far I've done 2 audiobooks. Not a big deal yet, but the second one had it had a heavy accent that was a made-up accent, and the author actually asked me to listen to a character on a TV show and then use that accent. And so I studied that TV show over and over and over and did that. But the book, that second book, had 44 voices. Most of them were males. And there was a combination of hillbilly accent. There was a Southern accent. There were just different. The characters were very, very different, all of them. But I'm trying to figure out what parts to take from that to even try to make a demo. And from what I'm getting from everybody here, your basic narration voice should be one. But after that, it's what kinds of things should be on there, and how many seconds or minutes for each voice or each category for a audiobook demo. Thank you.
You start, Carol. Where'd Carol go?
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay.
I just had to unmute.
Did you want to
So
start?
the general rule has been that you want 3 pieces that are 3 to 5 minutes each that are done excerpted from fairly recent publications. So when they say that, every company means something a tiny bit different, but you're very safe in doing something that was published in the last year or 2, but you can do as long ago as 10 years. And sometimes you can even make an exception of that and do one classical piece that, especially with children's books, just show a range. And of course, a lot of the classics are classics because they're so well written that you will shine in a different way, because you don't have to kind of make up for or try to work against what many of us are now given, which are, sometimes not well edited, and sometimes they're very formulaic, like lots of different kinds of genres. But generally speaking, contemporary work should be, for the most part, written by the same gender as you, the narrator, even if you're a white man, you can certainly do a black man's book, but also the female written novels, for example, nowadays, very, very often they have, it's a male-driven story, or it's a male-driven chapter that you can take from, and vice versa. The length is about 3 to 5 minutes, but as I said, that's the standard. And now it doesn't hurt to have maybe up to 5 pieces that maybe a couple of which can be shorter. Maybe 2.5 minutes. There used to be, for about 6 months, there was a producer who said, I will only listen to a demo that's a minute long, a sample, I should say, that's a minute long, but has since changed her ways, which is good, because you really can't get a sense of if someone is able to maintain a true story that one can imagine, the casting people can imagine you being able to sustain for a longer period. So I would say between 3 and 5 is the ideal for at least 3 of those pieces: the fiction with a man and a woman, a nonfiction, and what they would call a niche genre. Not niche, because we're in America, niche. And that means sci-fi, children's books, self-help, westerns, something that isn't mainstream, like romance or mystery. I feel like you asked something else.
Well, let me jump in for a second. Because she was speaking of her piece that had 44 characters and what to use and all that. So find a highly entertaining piece. We're not going to hear all 44 characters, but find, where if you're doing 3 to 5 characters within a 2-minute section there, and it's highly entertaining, that will hold the listener and they can hear, oh, listen, she can really maintain those voices. I hear distinct characters and I know who they are when they change. I think that's the way to pick what to choose, and then within what Carol said, 3 to 5 minutes of that.
And I'll just piggyback. That's interesting. I'll piggyback on that, saying that generally, Althea, if those books were done without coaching or direction, that's something you'd want, I think. I think it would be worth getting a really good, solid audiobook demo that isn't just clips of work that you've done without any kind of guidance. And yet, I may be wrong. If you sent something to Roy or to me or to Joe Loesch, we would be able to say, yeah, that's competitive, that's marketable. But that's just my last 2 cents.
No, that's right.
Oh, thank you so much. I just learned oodles.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Carol, along with the length, aren't they looking for some sort of stamina too? I mean, it's a marathon; it's not a sprint, as they say. So, aren't the listeners, the buyers of narrators, looking for a certain amount of stamina too?
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely what they're looking for. And of course, you can't really show that in a 5-minute period. But what you do by showing your stamina is also adding your resume, what books you've done. If it's clear that you've done even 2 that's not bad at all. It means 2 different people, or even 1 if it's a series, has trusted you with their words or with at least the book that they're producing. But yes, that's why I think at least one of those pieces should be 5. Some people say even 7. I've heard some Blackstone people say, I wouldn't mind a 5 to 7 minute clip.
So I just want to make sure people have an opportunity, if they want to get a hold of you guys, that they know how to do so. So Roy, it's antlandproductions.com, correct?
That's the website, and I just put my email address in the chat there, which is antlandprods at AOL, shamefully at AOL.com.
Welcome tonight to 2018, Roy.
Did they even have the internet back then?
I will say that last week I was right that it is. I'm so sorry. It is coaching at CarolMondaVO.com, which I will also now send up the chain.
I'm doing it right now.
Oh, great.
And Joe Loesch, how does someone get a hold of you if they're looking for coaching from you?
They could go to my website, joelesch.com. That's LOESCH, joelesch.com/coaching.
Joe, LOESCH?
Yes.
.com/coaching. There we go.
Or /workshops or /demos.
Okay.
All kinds of slashes.
Thank you.
Joe Loesch slashes. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Joe. Good to hear you. I'll be missing you all at VOAtlanta, but
How am I going to smoke a cigar without you, Carol?
I don't know. For 2 of us, just go really easy.
I'll bring a match.
There you go.
Who else has got questions for us tonight? Anything to do with narration, broadcast narration, long-form narration like e-learning, and audiobooks, of course. We have 3 different coaches on here tonight, just coincidentally, and all of them are experienced in coaching and demos when it comes to audiobooks. So you've got some great resources on here tonight if you want to take advantage of it.
How many people you have on the how many people are logged in right now?
There's 40 of us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Hi.
We don't fight. Hey, William.
Hi, it's Bill Clark. I have just started my coaching process and for narration, and my coach over at Edge, very good, was really emphasizing the importance of pauses and visualizing the types of material that you might be narrating, for instance, documentary film or so on. And I found one problem that I was rushing through it as if the reading was a book, say, rather than a narration of something visual. Do you have any comments or suggestions?
Your voice is probably, supporting a visual of what's going on. So if there's a slow-mo picture of a whale jumping out of the water or whatever, you're not going to say that really fast. And they have more footage than what they've written for you. So I think you have plenty of time. There's nobody's running a stopwatch on narration and saying this line has to be in 30 seconds or anything like that. Go for the performance, not for the timing. And just I have an acronym for, I can't say what it is, but it's just slow down. Slow down. STFD.
Well, he also mentioned about reading a book. I mean, you don't want to read a book fast either. I mean, the biggest comment that I get from every coach that I have ever coached with for audiobooks is to slow down.
Yes.
The best line I ever heard was from Pat Fraley. And Pat said, "Why the hell would you ever narrate an audiobook fast when you're getting paid by the minute?"
That's true.
Well played.
That's
your answer, William.
Okay, thank you.
I do think, Bill, that if it's challenging for you, it's probably just a matter of practicing and practicing that slower pace, and that pace can really be not imitated but emulated if you're listening to the different genres for which you're sampling, or for which you're creating a demo. So if it's a straight narration, that can be a straight narration demo. That can be anything from having a clip from a museum tour to a documentary to e-learning. So they each do have a different kind of metronome underneath. But if you listen to any documentaries, for the most part, they're not only slow, but they're slow depending on what the topic is. Oftentimes travel has a little, there's a slowness to it, but it's more important that there's flow and a lushness, and you're, again, as Roy said, you're matching and marrying the image of this beautiful beach paradise that you're trying to talk about. But if it's animals, it really still comes down to that, almost where you can hear the narrator behind the bushes saying, "The wild grouse." Walking in front of us, So there's not just pace, but even just attitude and tone that you want to just get used to hearing in terms of what's been done and what is being done, and also just yourself, just slowing yourself down. Even if you pick up a newspaper, just read it more slowly than you would normally, and it'll, eventually, I think over time, it'll help you to just get into that pocket more easily and quickly.
I have three tips possibly. One is try running your finger along the text and slow it down so that your eyes track, because your eyes tend to track ahead, and you don't want to do that. So if you can control the speed by moving your fingers slowly, that's number one. Number two, believe it or not, if you run a metronome, and Carol said the magic word metronome, if you run a metronome, as crazy as this is going to sound, and slow the metronome down and try to read at this slower tempo that's going on, believe it or not, that will help. And number three, because you said the word pauses. Okay, nobody wants you to slow down by reading fast phrases and putting pauses in. That's cheating.
Okay.
we want the words to come out slower. Those are my three tips right there.
That's great. Carol, if you don't mind, another question. In a 5 to 7 minute read, you said something about using contemporary literature kind of as your source material.
Yeah.
There aren't any copyright problems? Is that considered fair use, or?
No, this is true of every demo out there, that you can just lift and steal and take from anything you find, because it is a demonstration. It isn't being sold. It's not being distributed widely. So therefore, you're really kind of only helping the people get known or get some exposure in such a strange and small context. But at the very least, you're also just able to choose from the kinds of stuff that work for you without worrying about that kind of thing.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, the legalities on that is because 5 to 7 minutes is going to be such a small segment of a 6-hour book that does fall under fair use. In the case of a 30-second commercial, you technically are in violation of copyright if you take a 30-second commercial that you voiced and put the entire 30 seconds on a demo. But I have never, and I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of voice actors in the last 8 years I've been in this business, and thousands of voice actors probably. And I have never once heard of a voice actor being sued or even being sent a cease and desist because they used a piece of copy. The only thing, of course, is you have to respect confidentiality. Never, ever, ever release a commercial before it actually hits the air. That's all.
I would, well, I mean, if we're talking about demo scripts, I want to throw in how lazy could you be? Because I write scripts. Yes, I go and I do research and I see what are the current advertising trends and what spots are they running now, and I might steal their musical signature.
Are you speaking about commercial?
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that someone should take, an existing commercial that they worked on and put the entire 30 seconds on. But I have heard people who've done that.
Mhm.
And
Nobody got time for that.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that with commercials. I was really curious about the fair use for narration and audiobooks. I suppose with commercials, I mean, you could replace product names and so on, but yes, your laziness point is well taken. And the answer is I can get pretty lazy. So,
Hey, Bill, this is Steve G. And Uncle Roy did my narration demo. And one of the things that Uncle Roy does, and I know other producers do also, is they interview you and ask what you're interested in and what you like to do. And what Uncle Roy did was write a custom scripts based on my interests. So therefore, when I'm reading, theoretically, I'm reading something that I'm familiar with, I'm interested in, and can do a good job with.
fantastic.
I just want to hear Steve tell his story and what he likes and stuff like. Steve, you could turn your mic down a little too. It's overloading, but yeah. I mean, the demo should be about you.
Uncle Roy, I've got to ask if you ever had eggs in a skillet at the shortstop.
What town is that in?
Bloomfield, it's right under the Garden State Parkway overpass, right off the avenue.
You mean like down around Bloomfield Avenue?
Yeah, yes, exactly. You'd remember. I just
even though I'm here 34 years, no, I have not yet, but I put it on my bucket list now.
okay.
He'll be there tomorrow morning.
Carol's going to meet me there.
I was just going to say, can you repeat the name?
Oh, it's the shortstop. It was an old Airstream trailer that was underneath. Yeah, the Garden State Parkway
Is it
overpass.
still there?
No, man.
No.
Oh, okay. No, now it's the Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's
Yes,
the Dunkins.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say the TikTok Diner was just voted one of the best diners in America, and it was around since I was like 7. So.
Yeah.
When Ann Ganguza comes to town, I said, "You want to go get a bagel?" She says, "No, let's go to TikTok."
Yay!
Absolutely.
Or Rutt's Hut is the other.
Or Ruts.
Oh, God.
Gotta have a ripper. Yep. Okay. I always talk about food on these shows, you know.
we have a couple of minutes left, and I want to make sure that we get a few more questions in. Who else has got some questions for us tonight on narration of any type?
Graham, I do a lot of narration for Coca-Cola, Chevrolet, Boeing Aviation, Soundhound. And about a month ago, I did a narration for Coca-Cola. And that particular, that one was Usually it's a corporate narration, but that one was for an e-learning thing, and they had music and sound effects all over it. So occasionally you're going to find an e-learning project that has a lot of background music and sound effects. But I would say I agree with Roy and Carol on the most part that they should be pretty dry.
And that wasn't more like a corporate piece?
Well, I've done a lot of corporate pieces, but that particular one was an e-learning thing. I don't know what their mindset was for it, but occasionally that happens.
I produced 2 versions for you, one that's just voice so you can market to those companies, and then one that has some sound designs and music and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that everybody's happy.
That's cool.
I have a question. If any of you do narration, what have you found is most that your work is mostly surrounding? Do you find that you're doing a lot of story-based things like documentaries, or that you're doing mostly straight kind of corporate stuff or e-learning, or is there just a wide diversity in terms of the jobs you get?
For me, it's mostly corporate in-house promotions. And I would say 80% of the work that I get comes out of Brazil, Sao Paulo.
Oh, that's great. That's neat.
Mm. It's really, it's a fantastic business, because you don't know where you're going to be working from week to week. It could be in the Czech Republic, or it could be New Zealand, or it could be Brazil. It's fascinating.
So, Joe, so I'm really interested in this overseas and these foreign markets. Well, what is your workflow like when you do work for, the Paulistas and or the Czech Republic? Obviously, you're working in a home studio. What's your preferred method of delivering files? And
Dropbox. All of my clients, it's just I do the project. Usually, if I've been doing this for well over 30 years, so I'm usually hired as the producer and quite often the talent as well. So they expect me to produce it. I drop it in the Dropbox and I send it to them afterwards.
in what file format, if you don't mind my asking?
We generally it'll be WAV, because if they're going to be doing some production with it, they want to work with the highest quality file.
Joe, how did you go about finding these overseas clients, or did they find you over time?
Brazil, my band played in Brazil some years ago. I produced an album for the #1 soap opera star and country music star in Brazil. And so a few years later, a guy was looking at his album, and he contacted me out of the blue and said, "Hey, are you the Joe Loesch that produced Almir Sater?" And I said, "Yes." And we got to talking, and he asked me what I did. And I said, "Well, I was an on-camera actor at the time." I said, "But mostly I like to do voiceover." And he said, "Oh, I'm a voiceover producer." And so we have struck a friendship, and he's been providing me with work almost on a weekly basis ever since.
That is amazing. I had no idea. And like when you mentioned Czech Republic as another example, again, did you go out and specifically solicit overseas clients?
One of my students was hired to do voices for an animation project for a film company in the Czech Republic, and she said that they were looking for a male to do some other voices, and she put me in touch with them, and I did a complete cartoon series for them. It's all in English. I don't know why. It just is, and so that's how I got connected with them.
Maybe they'll invite you to their Christmas party and fly you over,
That sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I'm hoping I can go to New Zealand.
Who else has got a question for us tonight on narration?
Hi, Grant.
Hey, Pat, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm curious if anyone has experience with doing narration for amusement parks. And if so, how do you get into that particular area?
What type of narration in amusement parks? Like,
I'm specifically thinking of Hershey Park, and they have little TVs for people who have to wait a long time on the ride, and they just give them various facts, figures, information about the park or the ride.
Even in Disney, when you're waiting to get on the ride, they have, sometimes it's with character voices though, but they give some kind of entertainment so that you're not, you're so bored from standing there, you need something to keep you going.
most of these large parks have their own creative teams in-house, don't they?
I've worked for 3 amusement parks in my career, and Graham, yes, most of them do have in-house, but another way of getting your foot in the door, is to just go to work for the park, be a grunt, be a ride operator, be anything, and then stick your nose in everyone's business. Be seen, be heard, meet people, and then you'll find out where the opportunities are. At least that's how it worked for me.
Right place at the right time.
Absolutely. I always say it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Well, it's how Steve Martin got started.
Yeah, I worked at Knott's also, and he worked at Disney, and he worked at Knott's.
Yeah.
I've got a Steve Martin story.
Well, I want to hear it. Let's go, Joe.
I was producing, back in the 70s, I was an audio engineer in Denver, Colorado, and I had a studio out there. I was engineering for the Firefall, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and Air Supply. And
Just remember I love you and it'll be all right. I remember that song.
yeah, cool stuff. And so I was engineering for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and I was looking for John McEwen of the Dirt Band, and I called up to his place up in, I forget where he lived, further up in the mountains. And this voice answers the phone. I said, he says, hello. And I said, is John there? And I heard this voice say, John, it's for you. And it was Steve Martin. He was the manager for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band at that time. So I got to meet him on the phone at least.
I can just hear Steve Martin's voice doing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so well known for.
Mm-hmm.
Graham, you did a great job in your audiobook demo with a Steve Martin sample. You were fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much. I really enjoy Steve Martin, and Carol Monda produced my audiobook demo, and
How cool.
yeah, and one of the excerpts was from Steve Martin's autobiography called "Born Standing Up." It was a lot of fun. We had a good time recording.
How cool. I'm taking a master class from him right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us.
Well, it's online. And see, I'm the front man for my band, and so I just wanted some more confidence, I guess, to be able to communicate with the audience even better. And so I've been taking his master class and learning about him and how he came along up through the ranks, and all of his downfalls and his upswings. And it's just learning from him to be more natural and pay attention to your audience as to what they want, what they like, and make references to those things. And they lead to funny stuff, because life is just funny on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, Carol, there's this website called masterclass.com.
Yes.
You can take classes from Steve Martin, from Ron Howard, from Dustin Hoffman.
Sure.
Yes. Kevin Spacey, if we're talking about if you had to bring Dustin Hoffman in, then Kevin Spacey also has one.
No, Kevin Spacey was taken down, and I'm not sure if Dustin Hoffman is still there anymore either.
Oh, interesting. But anyway, I'm sorry, Graham. You should say it again for everyone, because, I did know of that.
Yeah.
Masterclass.com.
Yeah, thank you. That's great, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, we are out of time for the night. So thank you all very much for
Darn it.
And Roy,
thank you, everybody. Thank you, Graham.
Roy Yokelson, Carol Monda, Joe Loesch, thank you so much for coming and and providing all of the insight and all of the value add that you did. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
I'll
Graham.
see you all you
Thank
in
you,
Atlanta, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll see
Yes,
a
I'm
bunch of you
looking forward to
guys.
seeing many of you in Atlanta.
I'll see a bunch of you guys at the bowling alley or wherever we're going to meet.
So
I'll be there.
hopefully I'll see some of you as early as Thursday. For the rest of you, maybe we'll see you next Sunday night. Work hard, audition a ton, and go out there and get lots of work. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Bye.